Russell Wilson was traded from the Seattle Seahawks to the Denver Broncos back in March of 2022. Seahawks gave up 2 first-round picks. The Broncos gave up 2 first-round picks. Broncos gave up 2 second-round picks. Russell Wilson had 2 years on his deal. Denver, however, chose to extend him. George Paton, he was the general manager. Nathaniel Hackett, he was the head coach. And the Broncos were in between owners. They had not yet acquired the Walmart ownership group. What the Denver Broncos chose to do was give Russell Wilson a 5-year, $242 million deal. And less than 2 years later, Russell Wilson will no longer be a part of the Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson only has 11 wins to show for his $242 million deal. He only has 11 wins to show for his 2-year tenure in Denver. A lot of people are at fault. I am not suggesting that Russell Wilson is all at fault. However, I am suggesting, James Jones, that Russell Wilson was compensated heavily and did not necessarily return the wins that his compensation would suggest he was due to deliver. Can we get a jib? I want to see everybody. Let's take the jib real quick. James, this is bad.
Yeah.
This is real bad.
Yes, it is.
This is terrible.
Yes,
it's about as ugly as it can get in the National Football League. Shady McCoy, Joy Taylor. Now, again, for a little bit of context, James, before you answer this one, the Denver Broncos will still owe Russell Wilson $39 million this coming season. However, they will save $37 million in 2025, and they will have an $80 million dead cap hit, $85 million we anticipate they will spread over the next 2 years. I don't want to bog y'all down with numbers because this is about emotions at this point in time. James, who is at fault for maybe the worst trade in the history of the NFL, it panning out as the worst trade? Who's at fault for the Russell Wilson debacle in Denver?
I mean, I think everybody gets a little piece of the pie. You know, if Russ would have delivered some more wins, Russ would still be there. They paid him some really good money. I mean, you know, to be the quarterback for the Denver Broncos, when he came over there, they were a quarterback away. At least that's what we all thought. Really good defense, some solid players on the offensive side of the ball around Russell Wilson. That's all they needed to get to the playoffs and compete. That did not happen. Then you get Sean Payton coming in there. From the get-go, we knew that Russell Wilson was not the quarterback for Sean Payton. He made that clear with a lot of his comments, right? Russell Wilson goes out there and he plays fairly well, right? You ask him to take a pay cut or waive certain clauses in his contract, and he says no. That's on the coach because you have a quarterback that was really playing solid in your system, you know, 1 year. 1 year under your system. But at the end of the day, it just was not Sean Payton's guy. And
James, no, pause. I know what happened.
Yeah.
Tell me why it happened. I could tell everybody about it. We can Google all the Sean Payton, but you played 9 years in the National Football League.
Yeah.
You won a Super Bowl. You've played with Aaron Rodgers. You've played at the highest level. You led the league in receiving touchdowns. So we can read what happened. I need you, James Jones, to tell me why it happened. Is it Russ? Is it Hackett? Is it Payton? Is it the Walton family as the ownership group? Is it Sean Payton as opposed to George Payton? Why? Why are we witnessing what might be the worst trade in the history of football?
Well, once again, my dog Acho, it's everybody. Everybody gets a little piece of this pie, and it starts off with Russell Wilson. Like I said, if he would have delivered a couple more wins, we're not even in this situation. You know what I mean? But then he plays well. Like I'm telling you, he plays well, and you're just not Sean Payton's guy. There's nothing Russell Wilson could do about that. That's called the business of the National Football League, which is nothing he can do about it. If Sean Payton is sitting over there like ownership, we want to eat all this dead money, even though Russell Wilson played solid in my offense, then that's what they're willing to do. It's something that Russell Wilson has showed them that he is not the guy. But Russell could have eliminated all this if he would have went out there, not year 1 without Sean Payton, under Hackett, or year 2 under Sean Payton with a couple more wins. All this would have been brushed under the rug if he would have won a couple more games.
Shady, you played a long time, big dog. You got a lot of money in your career. You've seen players come. You've seen players go. You've seen great trades. You've seen bad trades. You've been traded in the National Football League. Who's at fault?
I'm going to go with the Broncos. You know, they decided to go out there and trade for Russell Wilson, right? They decided to give him all that money. I think Russell even when he was with the Seahawks, I thought he was a really, really good quarterback. But I never thought he was good enough to just win things by himself.
Yeah.
And you look at the Denver team, who they really have? The defense we thought was really, really good. We found they wasn't that good, right? He put 70 points on them boys. That did happen in the real league. Okay, then they finally got together. And then on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, you see some all-pro players over there? Do you?
Not all-pro, Pro Bowl.
Right? They've been there. So my thing is when you asking this guy to come and save your franchise, there's only about 2-3 dudes that can do that in this league.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow,
Maybe, if he's healthy.
And Lamar Jackson, like, you know, so everybody needs some help. And when you ask to get this dude, or you ask to trade him, you trade 2 first-rounders at that. Yeesh. Right? And then another thing I blame the Broncos for, he had 2 years on his contract. Yeah. So you say, you know, don't worry about that, Russ. We get rid of that contract, we're going to give you a whole new one with a lot of money. Now you sit here, owner got $39 million, he's not going to be there next year. So you ask me whose fault is it's got to be the Broncos. And then my last point, when you fired Nathaniel Hackett, right? Okay, it was a disaster. Let's get a new coach. Cool. We sat at the table. Now you got a quarterback you paid all this money to. Did you ask him about the coach you wanted to bring on staff? And then the coach that you're going to hire, you say, hey, how you feel about Russell Wilson as your quarterback for the next 3-4 years? Yeah. I know they didn't ask Sean Payton that. Because he made it so clear when he signed that contract, this is not my guy, this is not my man. Pause. Right? He might be here, he might not. Whoa, he got what's going on? I don't want that. He got his trainer in the building, he can't be here. Yep. He got his own parking spot, that can't be here. Yep. So it got to be the Broncos. Everything that y'all gave Russ, the coach I brought in to coaching, he took it all away. Yeah. And I think that if you had the process of interviewing all these coaches, you should have had a guy to listen. Because I love Sean Payton. We should have had a guy that's really okay with Russell Wilson for the next 3 years. Because now he's going after 24 months. Yeesh. So I'm going with the Broncos.
Joy, this is huge, and I don't think I can state how big a deal this is. Growing up in Dallas, I always heard the worst trade in the history of football was a Herschel Walker trade. Jimmy Johnson, he traded Herschel Walker along with 4 draft picks in exchange for the Minnesota Vikings, 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks. Jimmy Johnson used those draft picks to help the Cowboys ultimately build a roster which would achieve 3 Super Bowls in the next 5 years. So growing up, I always heard the Herschel Walker trade, the Herschel Walker trade, the Herschel Walker trade. But now in the 2020 era, there will be, Joy, the Russell Wilson trade. And you've covered sports longer than anybody sitting at this desk. So you have seen a lot of great ones and you have seen a lot of bad ones. But who is at fault for this one?
Ego.
Whose?
Everybody's ego. Let's go back to the beginning. Russell Wilson wanted out of Seattle. He made it very clear he did not want to be there. In fact, I don't want to be here, and here's places I'd like to go. There were rumors about him trying to get people fired who were in the building. So there's step one, ego. Now, the Broncos try to go and get Russell Wilson. They give up a lot. Egotistically, they think that is worth it. Yeah. And then do some more bad business in upping the deal when they didn't have to do that either. Then they egotistically bring in a first-time head coach, Nathaniel Hackett, to a situation where you have a legendary level player who's only played under one head coach his entire career. Who was a defensive head coach. As Shady said, this is a guy who never really carried the team to wins, but played at a super high level in systems that were very functional. You're a quarterback away, but you're bringing in someone who doesn't know how to do this job yet. Egotistical move. Sometimes ego moves pay off. In this situation, they're going to have to make it rain for many years to solve this. Then you bring in Sean Payton, who comes with his own ego. Earned, for sure, but ego as well. And then this whole thing falls apart. It wasn't a disaster this year in Denver. It really, if year one hadn't happened for Russ the way that it did, we might not even look at the situation this year as bad.
No question.
Well, okay, Sean Payton's coming into a new situation, takes a little time to get things rolling. Him and Russ are still getting on the same page. If year one with the Broncos and Russ didn't happen, I don't even think we would have looked at this situation and said, maybe they underachieved a little bit, but we'll give them some time to get it rolling because we know what Russ is capable of and we know what Sean Payton is capable of. To me, it was year one. Year one was so bad that year two had to overcompensate for how bad year one was for the Sean Payton, Denver, Russell Wilson marriage to work. Because really zooming out, year two was not that bad. It wasn't great. It was underachieving, but it wasn't a dumpster fire. Outside of the 70-point performance, okay, outliers, no excuse for that. That's a disaster on everybody's plate. Fine. Let's just take that out. There was a stretch in the season where they were 6-1.
Good stretch. Beat some good teams. Beat some good teams. Beat some good teams.
So year one was so bad that he had to be so much better than that. He had to remove all doubt whatsoever that not only he was capable of carrying them to wins, but he was going to look great in Sean Payton's system, and it would look silly for us to be talking about this today. Because let's be serious. We talked about this last week. This was an inevitability. I know we're having this conversation today in reality, but search your spirit. You knew this was coming.
Still shocking, though. Still shocking.
too.
Like,
But not for me. I knew
thought it
there
was
was
gonna
going to be a point this offseason where I was going to sit with the three of you and have this conversation. So I'm mentally and emotionally prepared for this breakup. I've been going through this breakup longer than everyone else has, apparently. This is an inevitable outcome to me, and I think it's because of how bad year one was.
I blame so many people. I want to start with Nathaniel Hackett. The first person I want to start with is Nathaniel Hackett, the head coach Russell Wilson's rookie year in Denver, his first year in Denver, that is, because you don't get a second chance at a first impression. Joy summed it up perfectly. If Russ starts better in Denver, then this last year with Peyton, it wouldn't have been as damning. It wouldn't have been as damaging. Russ had owed Denver so much because of how bad he was year one. There was no amount of debt that Russell Wilson could have paid off this year. No amount. He owed them way too much. The second thing I'll say, and this is really a life lesson, comparison is a thief of joy. Because where is Pete Carroll right now and where is Russell Wilson right now? Both of them about to be unemployed.
They are.
Unemployed. Maybe the greatest coach in Seattle Seahawks history and maybe the greatest quarterback in Seattle Seahawks history. And less than 2 years after the breakup, they're both unemployed because they both thought they had it better without the other person. Comparison, just robbing their joy. Pete Carroll's one of the greatest we've ever seen coach at any level. Russell Wilson, one of the greatest we've seen of this generation, particularly as it pertains to winning. And now Russ about to be unemployed starting Friday, March 13th, or March 13th, whatever date that is on the calendar. And Pete Carroll unemployed as of the last 3 weeks. And y'all could have been together. And if not happy, y'all could have been successful. So the biggest point I've learned is that comparison really robbed these two of their joy because they could have been together doing their thing and now they both unemployed. Oh, that hurts my heart. Shady, Joy, James, let's talk Russ for a moment. Shady, starting with you, big dog. Does Russ still have anything left in the tank? He had a really bad year 2 years ago. Had a good year, maybe a great year, if we're being honest. 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions this past season. Only went 7-8, so that does matter. Matters a lot, most for me. I think quarterback is a winning statistic. But does Russ still got something in the tank?
I think so, right? I think it matters of what are you expecting? Are you expecting Russ to go out there and be an all-pro? I don't think that's going to happen. This is being honest. I don't think it's going to happen. But he could play at a Pro Bowl level because he's had, even this year, like they did beat the Packers, playoff team. They beat the Cowboys.
Chiefs.
Right? They beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
They beat the Bills.
Beat the Bills.
And they beat the Browns. So he had some good wins. And in them wins, he made the difference.
Yeah, he did.
He made some plays. So I think with the right team, I think Russ can be a good player. Sometimes, I look at players where, like, they've been so great and they had great moments that you look at them in that light. But that's not who they are. I look at Travis Kelce. He didn't have a great year this year, right? But he had great moments. Now, obviously, him and Russ is way different, obviously. But I'm just speaking on when you look at Travis this year, it's like, yo, he got to be up here because he's been there for so long.
Yeah.
But majority of this year, he wasn't up there. He was more down here. Playoffs, you've seen him back up there. So what I'm saying is that we look at Russ at this level, he's not there. He's not there no more. But he still can win right here because we see players win right here all the time.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
So I just think that Russ, on a good team, solid defense, and some playmakers around him, I think Russ can be a good player in this league.
Yeah, you know what's crazy is winning, too, makes a player look a whole lot better than he is, too. Right? Because I remember sitting up here a couple months ago, and you broke down some stats of Russell Wilson. Like, we're talking bad about Russ, but his numbers this past year is the same numbers as Russ was in Seattle. But they were just winning with the Legion of Boom. With me, when you ask me, when I turned the tape on Russell Wilson this year, we had segments saying Russell Wilson, dangerous, fourth quarter, ball in his hands. He delivered this year on a couple drives, and we were like, is the old Russell Wilson back? I believe Russell Wilson really, besides last year, has never really left. This is him. Winning was just covering up a lot of that in Seattle, but the same Russ was out there on the field. He just had a big-time defense in the Legion of Boom who was getting the job done, but numbers-wise is not far off. So if you ask me, is Russ done? No. I think Russ can get to a team. He should be on a plane right now, flying to practice at one of the high schools by himself because he's going to be making $39 million, whatever he do. Go to Pittsburgh, be practicing at, what's the high school?
Woodland Hills.
Woodland Hills High School.
Okay,
Go out there, practice, play for veteran minimum. You already making $39 million.
This is what gives me pause, and this is what gives me pause. Obviously, big fan of Russ. I know Russ well. I met Russ back in 2012 at a Senior Bowl, an all-star game when we were both graduating college. But what gives me pause is how good is Russell Wilson really? Shady said, well, Russ can still win with a really good team around him, a good defense, really good playmakers. Well, I believe that most NFL-capable quarterbacks should be able to win with all that. We pay you $124 million over the last 2 years to win without some of that. No. That's why they're paying you $124 million over the last 2 years. That's why they gave you $242.5 million over 5 years for an extension that didn't need to be signed. James brought up a really good point, Joy. James said, well, Russell Wilson played this year like he played in Seattle. I agree. I'm the one who built the full screen. But they didn't get the wins. Russ won Joy Taylor with the Legion of Boom, the greatest defense I ever saw on a football field while I was also on a football field. Not the greatest defense I've ever seen, but one of the greatest defenses I've ever seen while on a football field. Ain't no more Legions of Boom walking around. Ravens aren't the Legion of Boom, have the best defense in football. Niners aren't the Legion of Boom. We'll see if their new defensive coordinator can get them there. Cowboys ain't the Legion. Ain't no Legions walking around. Steelers are not the Legion of Boom, and that's where we all think Russ should go. You still think, Joy, that Russ can win? Ain't no Legions, no Earls, no Cams, no Bobbies, no KJs.
Sherman.
No Shermans, no Browners, no Walter Thurmans, no Jeremy Lanes, no Maxwells. Can Russ
That's a deep.
still
That's a lot of shout-outs, boy. You could have.
That's a deep.
Their name.
I should have just 3 or 4.
Legion of Boom was cool, huh?
Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah, like, wow.
Getting crazy.
I mean, Russ only has one playoff win in the last 7 years.
True.
So win at what level? I think Russ is still an extremely valuable asset as a player in the NFL.
Yeah.
He plays the quarterback position. We've seen him at very high highs. We've seen him be capable just this past year. So we know quarterbacks that are on the couch for a long time that can come in and contribute, and they're always waiting for that call, and they most of the time get them because it's such a valuable position that people are willing to take you off the couch if the need is there. And what do we know? There's always a need.
Yeah.
The Browns are a perfect example of that this year. So do I think that Russ is capable of carrying a team to the Super Bowl? I think if we're honest with ourselves, Russ never carried a team to the Super Bowl.
No, that's true.
I know, it just hurt. That just hurt. That just hurt.
The truth.
That hurt. The truth just.
My bad. It's Monday.
He just named
I mean,
15 people on the defense.
I mean,
Only
yeah,
11
like,
take the field.
That just hurt. I don't like saying. I don't like hearing it. I don't like hearing
But
because
we
it's
did
true.
the full screen, and we just did it.
'Cause
We
it's
just
true.
said it. Oh, so I'm the one that said it. All right, but that's what it is, and but I also don't feel like that's a knock. You can also blow it, so you should get credit for not blowing it.
But
you should get credit for getting those wins. It's hard to win a Super Bowl. It's hard to win a Super Bowl and go back to the Super Bowl.
Sure.
So we know what Russ is capable of. We know that he's talented. We know that he's smart. We know that he knows the game of football. That's why that first year in Denver was so confusing for everyone. How can you possibly be this bad? We've never seen you be this bad. It should not be this dysfunctional. They were just a quarterback away. They had a good defense. How could it all fall apart so quickly? I do think that Russ has a lot left to give the NFL. And I think in the right situation, he can have success. Am I going to sit here and say he's going to carry a team to the Super Bowl? No, because I don't think he's ever carried a team to the Super Bowl. But do I think in the right situation that he can help a team get playoff wins, potentially get to an AFC or NFC championship game, potentially get to a Super Bowl, potentially win a Super Bowl? I can make an argument for a lot of guys that if you're in the right situation, you can. There are examples of this. Nick Foles, and I think that Russell Wilson is obviously better than Nick Foles throughout his career.
Yeah, of course. Yes, no doubt about it.
He's been better than Nick Foles.
Of course.
We're not talking about Nick Foles as a Hall of Famer.
Of course.
We are with Russ. My point is there are situations that I think can work. And for us to sit here and say that there will never be a situation that Russ would end up in where he could have the potential to elevate a team like that, I don't think that that's fair for us to say.
Acho, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Shady too, Joy too. Did we expect too much of Russ?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Okay, let's go one at a time. Let's go one at a time.
No.
I will say yes because I think, and I don't say this as a slight to Russ. I like Russ. Russ, you know that. We talked. I think Russ is better in our minds than he ever was in reality. That's why I think we expect too much of him. It hurt me when Joy said it because it was true.
Yeah.
Russ never carried the team to a Super Bowl. She's right.
No,
he never did.
Right.
Why do you think there's so much tension between the Legion of Boom, the greats in Seattle, and Russell Wilson? Because the Legion of Boom is like, wait a second. We are Hall of Fame talents, not Hall of Fame careers. We're Hall of Fame talents. Earl Thomas, Hall of Fame talent.
Yeah.
Cam Chancellor, Hall of Fame talent. Richard Sherman, Hall of Fame talent. Bobby Wagner, Hall of Fame talent. Russell Wilson, Hall of Fame career. It's a difference. And so I think we view Russell Wilson as a Hall of Fame talent when he's going to have a Hall of Fame career. Those are two very different things. So because we viewed Russ as having a Hall of Fame talent, when he showed up in Denver, we thought we were going to get a Hall of Fame talent. You're not getting a Hall of Fame talent. You're getting a Hall of Fame career with good talent. to great talent, but a Hall of Fame career. I think we thought too highly of Russ. I don't think Russ was ever a top 3 QB. He was a top 3 winner. Top 3 winner. Matters, Joy's right. Winning, it counts for something. Don't mess it up. But Russ was never, he was never Pat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Russ was never, remember, Russ was a 3rd-round pick, if I'm not mistaken, for a reason. He wasn't supposed to start. Matt Flynn was supposed to start. Seahawks traded for Matt Flynn from, I think, Shady, the Packers. Traded for the Packers. Gave him bread. Yeah, signed him as a free agent. Gave him bread. Big bread at the time. You look now, you're like, Acho, that's minuscule money. Big bread at the time. Russ wasn't supposed to start. And Russ ends up starting. Hall of Fame career, not a Hall of Fame talent. We view him as a Hall of Fame talent. That's why, Joy, I think we had too high of expectations. But why? What's your no?
Money.
The money.
Run me that check to be that bad, please. Like, what do you mean? They paid him a lot of money. They're still going to pay him a lot of money.
Yes, they are.
They're paying him. There are quarterbacks in the league that if a team paid them $39 million right now to play, we would say that's too much money. He's going to be paid that not to play for them.
That's facts.
And then they have $85 million in dead cap. He was there for less than 24 months. They traded multiple picks and players to Seattle for him. So, yeah, with that trade comes some expectations. And I think that we're doing a little hindsight here for what we think of Russell Wilson. We were all up here talking about Super Bowls and
That team, yeah.
as contenders before they ever played. Our bad, for sure, but we thought very highly of Russell Wilson leaving Seattle. We didn't think it was outrageous that he wanted to leave Seattle. We didn't think he was asking for too much or that he was going to fail at the level he did in the first year. Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.